Yo, what is good, Knicks Nation? Welcome back to Knicks Media. This is Richie. In this video, I want to break down Alec Burks and talk about his season recap for the New York Knicks in 2021. If you guys do not know, I have a whole series where I break down each player on the Knicks, go over their stats. What did they play well in? What do they need to improve on? Do they have a future on the Knicks or not? And in this one, we'll be talking about Alec Burks. If you guys are new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, please do not forget to like. And if you want to check me out over on Instagram and Twitter, you guys know where to find me at NYKnicks_media. With that being said, let's jump right into Alec Burks. So this is a player we went out there and signed in free agency to a one-year deal. This is somebody that definitely played way better than I feel like any Knicks fan expected. We expected this guy to come off the bench and be a shooter, but he was way more than just a shooter. He is a versatile player that can run the offense. He can drive to the rim and very crafty ball handling. He can size you up. He can do a fadeaway contested jump shot. He can finish at the rim with these crazy circus shots. He can, spot up from three. He's a clutch guy that was probably one of the best players on the Knicks in the fourth quarter. And he provided great, depth off the bench. He was one of the best offensive scorers we had when it comes to the bench players. So Alec Burks had a really pivotal role for the Knicks this season. I'm excited to talk about him more in depth because it's interesting. Will he be on the Knicks next year? So before we get into his stats, let's talk about that. He is another pending free agent. Obviously, we're not going to be able to re-sign every single player on the Knicks. There's a lot of free agents: Reggie Bullock, Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, Taj Gibson, Alec Burks, Mitchell Robinson, Frank Ntilikina, Theo Pinson. There's so many guys. Elfrid Payton. There's a lot of players that are, off the book. So we're not going to be able to re-sign all of them. My gut might tell me that they might want to move on from Burks, but I could be wrong. If they re-sign him, I'd be happy. I love what Burks brought to the table. I love everything he did. He's so versatile. He can do a lot of things that we didn't really expect. So that's really my thoughts if we should re-sign him or not. It's hard to predict, but if we do re-sign him, I would not be surprised. So let's get into his stats. He averaged 12.7 points per game off the bench, 4.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, shot 42% from the field, and 41.5% from downtown. So these are great stats off the bench. This is a player that was, consistent at times. There were some times where he just lit it up. I mean, when he's hot, he's ridiculously hot. He doesn't miss. He's a player that can create his own shot, and him to shoot 41.5% from downtown is awesome. So let's get right into what he did well in the New York Knicks. The number one thing is his versatile offensive game. I mentioned it earlier. It's not like he's just a spot up shooter. He can do everything. He can bring the ball up. He's a playmaker. He can drive to the rim. He can even play defense. He can do pretty much everything you want from him. Maybe not at an elite level, but he can do everything on the floor, and that's awesome. And I feel like that's why Tom Thibodeau loved to use him late in the fourth quarters. He would sub him in the fourth, and he would be the point guard to finish out games. He wanted to be the closer in a way, and he did that at times. He won us some games. Finishing off game one in the playoffs, he absolutely gave us everything he had in order to win. Unfortunately, we fell short, but he's dropped 17 points in the fourth quarter alone. So Alec Burks is he's a clutch player, and he's a versatile guy that can do a lot. Another thing he did is clutch. I mentioned this again. He's a player that stepped up in the fourth quarter, I feel like, more often than not, and we needed that. When Randall did not have that clutch abilities, he stepped up. When RJ was not clutch, even though RJ was clutch more than not, Alec Burks stepped up. He was definitely one of the more clutch players for the Knicks this season. And another thing he did well is shooting. I mean, he shot 41.5% from three. I feel like this entire team shot over 40% from three. I know not every player did, but it really was awesome to watch this team as a squad just light it up from downtown, and it was awesome. His ability to come off the bench and provide shooting, instant offense, it was awesome to watch. Another thing he did as well at is playmaking. Averaged 2.2 assists per game, and this goes right with playmaking. He would sub in, and he would either be the primary ball handler or off ball, and that's why I feel like this Knicks roster in 2021 was awesome, because we had a bunch of combo guards. He can run the one, he can play the two. Imagine quickly, same thing. He can run the one, he can play the two. Even Derrick Rose. We know Derrick Rose is traditionally a point guard, but there were some times where Derrick Rose was lining up at the two spot, and even Alec Burks was running the show. So we had a lot of versatile options, and Alec Burks did a good job, I feel like, playmaking. And there were some times where he would be the ball handler on a pick and roll. He would lob it up to Obi Toppin, or finish, dish it down low to Randall, or dish it down low to Taj Gibson. I feel like he did have a lot of ability to be a good playmaker. And another thing he did well in his circus shots. There were some times where he would go up to drive to the lane and put up a crazy layup, and it would go in. I'm like, wow, okay. And he's also ambidextrous. He can finish with that left really well. He has a really good knack to finish at the rim with finesse and that jelly, as kids would say. Another thing he did well is his ball handling. He's a very good ball handler. His ability to size you up and cross you up, drive to the rim, one-on-one isolation, he can do that as well. I feel like there's not one part of his game that he lacks on the offensive end. And now let's get into some things that he did not do well in and maybe he needs to improve on. Sometimes where he was the point guard, he held onto the ball a little too long for my liking, where he would drive up, he would dribble the clock out, and all of a sudden he has the ball in his hands and there's 10 seconds on the shot clock. He doesn't pass it and he forces up a shot and he misses, and that's a missed possession on offense. There were some times where he did not pass. And it drives me crazy because whenever he got hot, he hit like back-to-back shots. And then that time he would feel a little confident in himself. He would do a heat check, which is not it's not a big deal for somebody to be, throwing some heat checks. If you hit back-to-back shots, I'm okay with you shooting again. But it was more often than not, I noticed like, all right, Burks, now's the time to pass. Like, you don't hold on to the ball. Don't, make this offense stagnant. We need to be able to have a fluid offense. We need to make everybody confident in, make the right reads. And there were some times where he did not do that. Another thing is I want to talk about is his consistency. There were some times where he would be absolutely ridiculous, average like 20 points per game in a 3-game stretch, and then 3 games in a row he would not be able to get anything to go. So that's really the whole. I feel like a lot of players in the Knicks lack consistency besides Julius Randle. But I feel like if he could be more consistent, if we do re-sign him, that would be great off the bench, because if he can average up more to 15 points per game, I feel like that's why his average is only 12.7, because there were some times where he would play a lot of minutes, but he only scored like 5 or 6 points. So consistency is something that he did not do well in my opinion. And then another thing I want to talk about again is, does he have a future on the Knicks? Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Alec Burks should be re-signed? Because he is a versatile option for the Knicks. He's a versatile option for Tom Thibodeau to maneuver around the offense because, like I said, he can run the 1, he can run the 2. He's decent on defense. He gets into the passing lane. He can guard the 1, he can guard the 2, he can play the 1. So that's really the big question mark, and I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. Does Alec Burks have a future on the Knicks? Are we going to re-sign him? Are we going to let him walk? That's really interesting because there's so many pending free agents on the Knicks. I'm going to make a whole video dedicated to each free agent for the Knicks and talk about, should we re-sign him? Should we let him walk? Because I feel like it's a big question mark for the Knicks because we have so much money in free agency, and that's because we only sign guys to 1-year deals, and that's smart for Leon Rose to, not sign players to long term because they're trying to open up the cap flexibility for future assets. Are we going to trade for a player? Are we going to sign someone to an extension? There's a lot of things that are going to be moving around for this Knicks team. Expect the 2022 Knicks to look completely different. And I don't know if Alec Burks will be a part of it. My gut tells me, if I had to guess, Alec Burks will not be a Knicks next year. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. If we do re-sign him, I'll be happy. That's just my prediction. Let me know your predictions down below. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please do not forget to like and subscribe if you're new to the channel. That does it for this one. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Let's go Knicks. Peace.